Morning, guys. How is everyone? Good. Lack a bit of audience participation. So I would like to thank the team at Commerce Futures. Earlier this year, I set myself a New Year's resolution, which was to obviously lose 2 stone and give up smoking, drink less, but also to do more events and speaking with my peers, because for many years I've ground myself down in the dirty world of multi-channel retailing and thought it was time to put my head above the parapet and start talking to some people who also work in the same space. So thank you guys for listening to me. Hopefully you will be able to take something away from this, and hopefully I'll be able to learn from you guys today too, so thank you. So first of all, what allows me to stand up here and talk to you guys as peers? So I've been working in the digital space now for 10 years. I earned my stripes in leading UX and CRO teams at some of the Northwest's most influential businesses. So started out in late rooms, and I know there's some guys who are here today, and then moved on to AO.com. So my former boss is also sat in the audience, so if soft fruit flies across the room, it's probably from him. So gained my experience in pure play travel and retail sites, and then I decided it was time for a new challenge and jumped into the world of bricks and mortar retail. So I worked in digital, really enjoyed working in the pure play space, and I'm here to talk today about my transition from working in a pure play retail environment to working in a multi-channel retail environment. Now, I'm not going to use the word omni-channel because as a business, the business I work in, Benson's for Benson, Harveys furniture, we're not there yet, so it wouldn't be fair of me to do that. So first of all, I'd like to explore the beauty of a pure play environment. So obviously digital is at the heart of everyone's thinking. Everyone in that business is rowing in the same direction to get online conversion and drive interaction and engagement through online sales and transactions. Generally speaking, majority of those businesses are fairly young businesses, maybe 10, 20 years old, and the systems architecture that sits behind that is also relatively new and in most cases relatively agile. And brand is everything. So if you're starting up as an online pure play, one of the biggest things that you can leverage is your brand, and to grow your brand and make that at the forefront of all your consumer thinking. And as I said, customer experience and conversion is usually king. So everyone is working towards getting people to spend more money and buy more online. So I then decided that I was going to sell a bit of furniture. And how hard can that be? How hard can it be? How hard can it be to sell some beds and some sofas online? The answer is very hard. So I went from industry-leading conversion rates into leading businesses into conversion rates that are a fraction of what I was used to selling in a role of, and when your role is conversion rate optimization manager, you've got a bit of a challenge. So we came across a number of challenges as a business. We were a fledgling team, so when I joined there were 8 people for 2 brands responsible for all things e-commerce and digital focused. And that was for 2 brands, trade, UX, development, social, all the things that come as natural within a pure play business. We didn't have those at our advantage. We were a small team trying to forge ahead, and what that does is it forces you to be in the detail all the time and tread water. So we relied on a lot of agency support to do that. And as well as that, we had a number of cultural challenges which I wasn't used to and I had to face into. So we had these people called store colleagues who I'd never come across before because I've never had to have a conversation with anyone other than to walk into Currys and say, how much is that BK washing machine? We had a real culture in our business of us and them. So we had store teams that were monetised around and based on commission structures. So every sale that walked into the shop, they wanted it. If a customer said to them, I'll go back and look online, it was their main job was to keep that person in the shop and get them to buy there and then, which is a challenge when we're trying to also make people buy online. So much so that I once walked into a store and said to one of my fellow colleagues many years ago, so I'm interested in this bed, like, can you talk to me about it? And I said, I'll just go back and look online. He went, they'll charge you more online. And I said, oh, that's interesting. He said, what do you do? I said, I'm the head of eCommerce for Benson's for Beds. So I know for a fact that isn't true. So it was a very challenging environment all round. And Coupled with that, we were born into an industry that was bricks and mortar. So for 50 years, these businesses had traded on a retail park with their main focus on driving footfall into store through marketing campaigns, and all our architecture and business practices were built around us being a store. And this meant that when it came to ours, just a really big store, I happened to sell a lot more than a single store in Bolton or in Manchester. But in terms of the way we structured our budgets and everything else, it was all around us being a really big store. And we had our operational challenges. So obviously, brand is key to everything. It's the key to how you start a conversation with your customer. In our sector, furniture sector, brand is almost meaningless. It's got very low loyalty, very low recall. I attended a lab session with a customer many years ago for one of our brands, and I said, so where did you buy your furniture from? And she said, I don't know. So she spent over £1,000, which is a lot of money. She'd had not a great experience with her delivery, unfortunately. So she'd spent a load of money, had a pretty poor experience, and happened to have bought it from us, but couldn't tell me that she bought it from us, which, when you're trying to gain and grow a digital audience, is not a great place to be. And coupled with that, we had a lot of challenger brands joining the sector, Made.com, Loaf, Eve, Simba, all building their brands and growing audiences based on strong brand engagement. So we had a challenge there that we had to face into a market that was difficult to work in. We had systems that were built, so if you don't know, this is Colossus. This is one of the first computers built in Bletchley Park. This is what it felt like I was working with, having been in pure play businesses, with great systems that all started to talk to each other. So we had ERP systems that were built on businesses that were, 50 years old. They were growing, systems had grown with that business. So when we came and hooked Magento in, it was, you're hooking into these systems and everything's got to talk to these systems. So I'm probably being a bit mean there, but we had to take, in terms of even things like reporting finance numbers was difficult. Half our traffic pays on a credit agreement, and these systems had to factor in whether that had been declined or accepted, and then work out how to refund that back to the system, which was all dragging us down in the detail every day. And our customer lifecycle is 8 years. So our ability to learn about the customer, get it right, and make sure we get that customer to convert is a very limited window. People will tell you that there's loads of research that goes into buying furniture. In reality, it's about 3 weeks from someone deciding that they want to buy to actually going out to market. They may have had an inkling a couple of years before that they thought about changing that sofa, but the actual decision to choose and buy is about 3 weeks. And so you've got to get it right for that customer. So we sat down as a team and said, okay, so we're a tiny part of the business. We know that we're the biggest, the small store, but the most important store to our brands. We need to take the business on a journey with us and get them to understand our role in this business and how we can add value. So what did we do? So we did all the right things. We learned about our traffic. We checked our GA implementation, checked all our numbers were coming through correctly. We built attribution models which told us where every pound was being spent and how effective that pound was. We worked with Google on their stores program, so we could start having a meaningful conversation with our store colleagues to drive money into store. So for every pound we spend online, this is how much footfall we drive for you, which is really important. Obviously, everyone should be doing that as basics. We focused on our conversion rates, and not just conversion rates of transaction, but how many people we could get to interact with that store finder and that store page. So we broadened our thinking beyond just a transaction and turned ourselves into a digital team rather than a purely focused e-commerce team. And we did some pretty cool stuff with people like PRWD on how we run a conversion rate optimization program within that. My comfort zone is this area, so I was very at ease doing this, not so much some of the other stuff. And then we looked at our user experiences and said, okay, are they websites that we're proud of? And I looked at them and said, absolutely not. I couldn't stand up here in front of peers and say, I've built this amazing website. So we redesigned our experiences and made sure that we went into those rather than just with the view of a pure transaction, that we went into those with engagement and driving footfall as part of our key metrics. And we had to inspire through great content. So I sat in a lab, it was the most brutal lab I've ever sat in, where the person being interviewed said, and I quote, the person who designed these websites needs to be sacked. And I was like, great, thanks for that. I won't put that back in onto the board, but actually I did, because it highlighted something really important. What that highlighted to me was actually our core buying journey wasn't that bad. People could start the site and finish the journey and hand over their cash. It was what they found that they got there, that what they weren't pleased with. So we said, right, we can't do this on our own. We can't create great content and great imagery. So we're going to have to go and get investment. So we got circa £1 million of investment to go ahead and look at our content plan. And that was about creating great imagery using CGI, which was a technique that hadn't been in the business before we joined as a team. And we're starting to get some great, we're still not there, but we're starting to get some great content coming through now, which sells our product as a aspirational lifestyle rather than just a bed in a white room. And we found some friends. So we had been in this box room above a DC and churning out numbers, great numbers in fact, double-digit growth year on year, every year for the past 3 years. So we weren't failing by any means. We just weren't an intrinsic part of the business. And we went and had we made a conversation with the board that was more around what would benefit them rather than what would benefit us. So if you help me with this and give me investment to do this, I can deliver you X million pounds of sales into store. If you help me with this, I can drive footfall into store. So we made it a very different conversation. We turned it away from how we need to grow our team because we want to be a digital focused business to how we can help you drive more commercial value. But it wasn't quite enough. So my guys were there pedalling. So if you imagine the guys on the Titanic, they're shoveling coal, and actually there's still this like disaster waiting at the top, because ultimately although we were having meaningful conversations, we weren't having the right conversations. And I had a bit of a light bulb moment. So I had all these guys going, what do we do now? What do we do now? We're doing all this great work. It's not being seen. We want people to see the great work that we're doing. How can we showcase that and support the business in what we know their core objectives are? So we talked about the customer, which this hasn't been the first time we put the customer on the agenda. The customer should be at the heart of everything that we do. But I stood in front of my board and I said to them, tell me how a customer shops for a product. Tell me what the journey is. This is what they came up with. So you've got people, they'll do a bit of jumping around the internet maybe. They might pick up a mobile phone, which to most of our board is something they just don't do because they're on the desktop all day, as we all know. And then you get a picture of a screenshot on a desktop and fix that. And actually, your core problem that you need to fix is the mobile customer. So they presented us with this journey, and I said, that's great. That's definitely what customers are doing, but they're also doing this. And had I realised this is all I needed to show 3 years ago, I would have done it 3 years ago. And it was like a light bulb moment in the room. And they said, what is that? And I said, that's how our customers are interacting with us today. So we're not just on a park competing with our fellow peers on the park. We are competing with pure plays. We're competing with call centres, people that can have really good help at hand. We're competing with social channels, a more interactive conversation across those digital spheres, and we are not actively playing a part in that customer journey. Yes, we've got shops, yes, we've got great marketing content, yes, we've got websites, but we're not doing a great job of servicing that customer at every touch point where they want to engage with us and being present. So before we could even start having a meaningful conversation about what digital means to our business, this is what we all need to face into that we're working with. And from this, I instantly got literally, how can we help? What can we do to help you embed this and make it work? Because I think the stark reality is, if we don't, as a business, if you don't understand this, if you're in multi-channel retail and you don't build your business around this and this complex customer journey, then you're not going to succeed. So that was pivotal to us being recognised as a digital business. From this, we've managed to secure money for a digital strategy investment. So I'm working with an agency and all our board members to understand what digital strategy should mean for our business. So rather than just being change the website and get some more sales, it's now being a conversation around actually how does digital look in our stores? How do we build a journey that's engaging for customers? When we're giving people devices to use, is that the right thing for them to do, or do we need to look at it differently? Can our store colleagues pick up a tablet and use it seamlessly and understand that journey and where it sits within that customer buying process? I then said, let's structure our business to talk about digital and put digital at the heart of what we do. So this was our structure. So we had a gap in the market. We have great buyers who source great product, great looking product. They went out, space on the shop floor, let's buy a product. We then got some content and some pricing around that. We understood where it sat in the price plan and the range plan, how we'd merchandise that and how we'd trade it. And then right at the end, we'd get a sheet of some information, not all of it. We'd get an image of the shop floor model, so with furniture, all our products aren't shot and photographed because some of them aren't physically made. A lot of our products are made to order, so the first time we actually see it in the flesh outside of trial models are when we make one and manufacture it to deliver to a customer home. So we couldn't always get imagery, so we then have to take a very simple base product and then create content and imagery around that using clever CGI process. But we were right at the end. We got this right at the end, so quite often it hit the shop floor before we'd even got it online. And then the conversations will be, yeah, you're a bit rubbish because that product's not online. And, well, you sent it to me a week ago, so I've got to get images for this. It takes 4 weeks. So we were right at the end of that process. So the conversation I had was, as a business, how do we structure ourselves to support getting great content online at a point where we can start that customer journey and engage people, and actually that meets your needs as buyers and as merchandisers and traders, and mean that we maximise the sales of that product when it hits the floor. So we've restructured our business. So I'm currently in the process of putting digital people in the buying team, digital people in the merchandising team. So when the conversation is, why is this product not selling on the shop floor, it's also a conversation of, how much interaction has it had on the website? Is it building us for successful sales? Is there engagement with that product online but no one's buying it? Therefore, is the pricing right? When they get into store, are they buying something else? Now, I'm not saying that we've nailed this. We haven't got this full journey yet of customer starts here and we know every single touch point and where they end up and what they buy. By no means. I don't know. If you have managed to get that, anyone, please let me know, because I would love to know how you've done that. We're still on that journey. I used to be in the very perfect world of, we need to know it. Before we can take action, we should know everything. And actually, I've had to really evaluate the way I look at it and go, it's better to know something rather than nothing. So let's start with that and then build on that and see. It might not always be right, but it's better than what we knew yesterday. So we're now structuring our business that supports the world of digitisation, which for me is critical. So if I could summarise all that, I'd say, one, finding an advocate is really important. Finding someone in a senior level in the business that's prepared to have that conversation with you and lead it on your behalf. Most businesses these days have a form of digital director on the board. We don't yet have that. We have a chief customer officer who I work for, and he's now having because he's seen the impact it has on the customer journey. He knows the importance of that, and he's really behind us making that a success. And find as many as you can. So we'd had a conversation with IT and said, your systems are terrible, go fix them for us. And they'd be like, oh, we've got other priorities. So actually we said, do you know what? Your systems are not perfect, but we can work with them. So let's sweat our assets. Let's work on what we can work with and what will talk to each other. And actually, if you look around our business, we've got bright people. We've got great people who want to do great things. So let's use those people, and I've jumped ahead of it, but sweat your assets and work with what you've got and then decide where your gaps are, rather than throw pieces of tech at it that you then have to hack into a system, which ultimately you make great investments in big areas, but ultimately you're going to be left with the same problems underneath. And choose the right language. So in our business, you used to talk about cultural change, digital transformation. I've never used that language when engaging with the people around our business because A, it sounds unachievable, and B, it sounds scary. And actually, when we're working in a business that's 50 years old, we've got people on the shop floor that have been doing that for 20 years, that are super loyal to our business and know our business inside out. That is not music to their ears. That is, you're taking me out of my comfort zone and I don't like it. So we've avoided all that. We just talk about having a conversation and understanding them and understanding our customer. So I found there's nothing better than walking into our store in Bolton, grabbing a cup of tea and sitting next door to the store manager and said, what's worked for you today? What isn't working? And actually, how can I help you? Because ultimately, the bulk of our sales still come from our shop floor. Not from me, but I can help them do more and sell more stuff and build a better relationship with that customer through a digital engagement at the start of the journey. So, and understand your strengths and weaknesses. So, our strength, we had great people doing great things. We were a small team. And I said, we can do all this great stuff. Here's all the great stuff now that we can do and the way we can help you have a conversation with your customer. But I have 8 people. I can't possibly do that with 8 people and do it well. So rather than saying, I need more money, you can't have it, it was, okay, how many people do you need? So I'm now building a team around that is built to deliver success, not just for our team, for e-commerce, but for the rest of the business. We've changed the way we talk about who we are as a team. So we're not e-commerce, which instantly creates that us and them culture. We are the digital team, and the digital team is here to, yes, sell some stuff, but yes, I have a sales target, but I almost don't care where that sale comes from, as long as it comes into our business and not to one of our competitors. And then build a plan that you're comfortable with, and then deliver on it. Ultimately, that's where you will let your numbers do the talking, and building that plan and building that engagement. And obviously, never forget the customer is at the heart of that. So the minute you bring that conversation back to the customer, it takes the heat out of all the conversations you have around the business, around targets, footfall, dwell time, and brings it into, ultimately, are we satisfying what that customer wants, and are we doing that in the right way through the right digital products at the right time? And if we get that right and then build a structure that supports delivering for that customer, then we should succeed. Thank you.